It's Saturday, February 7th. It's 22 degrees. Now we've got a little snow squall and a lot of wind. And tomorrow we're leaving to go to Panama for medical tourism. It's supposed to be 87 degrees in Panama.
Hello, we're David and Margaret, and today we're doing something different. Margaret is going to give you the rationale for a medical tourism trip we did to Panama recently.
Okay. We began thinking about medical tourism in 2019. We knew David wanted to retire in 2020, and we also knew that regular insurance was not going to be a great fit for us because it was very expensive. We rarely go to the doctor, and we'd focused on maintaining health and preventative eating and staying healthy. So our solutions were Christian cost sharing, which is not insurance per se, but it can help in catastrophic situations. We also did lifeline screenings 1, maybe 2 times a year when they would come to our area. And then we began to look at medical tourism online. We saw YouTube videos. I saw a great video on Malaysia, but that's a really long flight from us. And so we Googled and we kept researching, and we first saw Panama Pacifica Salud Hospital on an online search, like I said, back in 2019. After our stepmom had a health crisis this past fall, there were consequences for her from not going to the doctor for a decade, and we decided not to be that stubborn. So we started doing more research more seriously. So the pros and cons of Panama and Pacifica Salud are the pros. It was an internationally accredited hospital associated with Johns Hopkins. Internationally accredited, associated with Johns Hopkins. That was tremendous for us. We're from the East Coast, so we know about how good Johns Hopkins is. It was a direct 5-hour flight. The US dollar is the currency down there, which was incredibly convenient, and also you didn't get any foreign transaction fees on your credit card. It was significantly less expensive than US healthcare to do their executive health plan. We got an Expedia package with return flights and a week at a fancy Ramada Plaza in the area they call San Francisco, within walking distance of the hospital and the mall, for about $1,700 for the week for the 2 of us.
And that included airfare and the hotel stay for 6 days.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was a good package deal. The cons of Panama is our Spanish is really not great. I tried to study frantically before we went. All the doctors had excellent English, even the ones that told you they didn't have good English. Their English was excellent. The Uber drivers, the taxi drivers, no, they were not English speaking. So, but all the auxiliary medical staff, they would just pull up, a Translate app if they had something to ask you, and we could translate it that way. And the hospital is new and state of the art. That was great. The roads and the infrastructure and sidewalks in Panama are not.
Out for a stroll down to the hospital to see what the distance is.
We flew out on a Sunday, Dulles via Copa Airlines to Tucumán in Panama City. It was a fine flight. There was nothing fancy. There's no TV screens. The food was really good, and Copa is known for its timeliness, and we did find that they took off early, they landed early, and that. Customs threw me back a little bit with my flaws in Spanish, because they asked why we were there and how long we were staying, and they were not impressed with my until Saturday in Spanish. They wanted to know the number of days, and so anyway. So just be forewarned, they want to know, they're going to ask you how many days you're going to be there. We took a taxi from the airport to the hotel because it was dark, and you just got off a flight, so it was like $30, and we gave him a $5 tip. The Ramada Plaza by Wyndham, the Punta Pacifica on Israel Street, was very nice. It had a wonderful buffet breakfast, hot foods every morning. It had like rice and meat and ever changing. It wasn't just the normal hotel breakfast. It was good.
Although they played the same jazz song in a big loop every morning. It was funny.
So Monday we just looked out from our eighth story window, and we could see the mall, the largest mall in Panama, and we could see the hospital, and we walked there to see how long it would take us. We walked to Park Omar, we walked around the mall. It was very kid friendly. We got some really good gelato. So we knew how long it was going to take us to get to the hospital. So Tuesday morning, no breakfast, had to skip breakfast, but we got to the hospital by 7:30. We reported to the lab reception area and waited just a couple of minutes for our escorts that were going to be with us the entire day. So Pacifica Saluda can take six people in the executive health plan, and there were 5 of us that day, and we had 2 escorts. They gave us our bracelets, which had our passport numbers on there, which was really helpful because U.S. passport numbers are really long, but the Panamanians use their passport number for their health insurance. So they were always asking us our passport number, and we'd be like deer in the headlights, and then we'd, twist around and read it off. So they gave us the stuff. They gave us a little towel. That was for David's stress test coming up later.
And we had our blood work drawn right off the bat, very quickly.
Blood work quick. Then they took us off to ultrasound, abdominal and pelvic, and they wanted full bladder for that one. Then our escorts would take us to each department, check us in, and then tell us to wait there, and they'd come back and get us. So the receptionist would call them, and they'd come back and get us, which was it was just incredibly helpful in a foreign country to be guided by the hand by very pleasant young people. So we would go different places, and we were split up based on, I had asked for some extra tests. And so based on the tests, we were split up. And then we had a conference room, and we've got a picture that we'll show you, which had a restroom and a doctor's office attached to that. So they would bring us back there. That's where we got our breakfast. That's where we got our lunch. That's where they would just drop us until it was time to take us to the next place. So over the course of the day, we had the blood work, the ultrasounds. I had an EKG. David had a stress test. We had eye checkups complete with glaucoma tests. We had a dental visit complete with cleaning and fluoride. We had a nutritional visit where you stood on a scale and you held onto some handlebars, and it somehow just knew where your percentage of body fat was, and a very detailed nutritional assessment came out of that. We had a regular doctor visit. We had chest x-rays. We added dermatology. We had a couple spots we were worried about. I added orthopedic and some female exams. The dermatology ended up being $85 a piece to see the dermatologist, and then the free we both had some spots frozen, and it was $185 for each of us on the spots. At the orthopedic, I got the head of the clinic, and he was just the most kind-hearted, delightful gentleman. He gave us ideas of where to go visit on a ferry onto an island. He told me to come down and have their whole body MRI done, that he would get me a discount. Just let him know. It's only $1,800 for a full body MRI. But his visit was $100. He did two x-rays of my wrist for $35 total. Gave me a fancy wrist brace for $24, and then he said he was going to give me a shot. And I said, so that's like a steroid? He goes, I said, that's like a cortisone shot. He goes, oh, it's way better. It's from Germany. It will last longer. I'm like, great. That ended up being $151. So all total, those were our bills. All total for $4,300 for the 2 of us. And you got the results that day. Like, by the time we left, we had this notebook with all our results in it. So we were very impressed at their efficiency, the price, the care we got, the kindness of everyone. I think the thing that struck me the most about Panama is when you walk into a room, when everyone walks into a room, they say buenas or buenos dias to everyone in the room, like acknowledging that there's humans there. It was a very refreshing kind, people-oriented culture. So we would highly recommend it. You have anything to add to all that? We got back to our room about 5 o'clock that evening.
Yeah, walking from the Ramada Plaza took about 10 minutes of brisk walking. And as I said, the sidewalks are poor, but watch your feet. You can get there. There's one stoplight where you can cross over with a a crosswalk. Otherwise, you might be fighting traffic. And the walking distance to the hotel is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
We ended up walking down to the mall back and forth multiple times during the week. So the Ramada Plaza was a very good spot
nice, yeah.
to base from, just a block or two from the hospital.
Yeah. So that's it. Leave us any questions that we can answer.
Thanks for watching.